You know, it's interesting. People talk about developer communities as these, these things that are static and well-known, and the reality is they're just people. So when you start thinking about what's the best way to engage with people, you end up with the same spectrum that everybody has around how do you engage with friends, advocates, colleagues, even competitors. And so we've, over a period of time, built up kind of this view of how to best engage from a technology perspective with these communities of devs. The first thing is, you can't form them, they form on their own. And that's one of the things that we understand. They aggregate together based on their own interests. So one of the key things that we've learned is we have to go where they are. And we actually talk about that quite often. It's not about building a giant Microsoft community of people. It's more about, there's a Linux community, there's a Python community, there's a Java community, there's an Azure community, there's a machine learning community, there's a cognitive services community. All these different communities usually live on their own and are almost completely walled off from one another from a conceptual perspective, but the people flow back and forth. And what you'll find is the people that may be leaders in the machine learning community in Silicon Valley also participate in the agent community or the cognitive services community. And then they also do mobile apps, because a lot of times that's how they deliver this functionality. And so what you do is you end up, for us, what we've seen is the best way to do this is you build relationships with those leaders. And the funny thing is that we talk about leaders as being, these influencers that have been around forever and they know these communities. It's not true. We actually had a woman on staff here at Microsoft a number of years ago that actually had built her own community that was one of the largest communities in Silicon Valley. And she's now gone on to run a developer program for another company, which we think is fantastic. But if you look at what she did, she started with an interest in the technology, and suddenly she was the centerpiece for 1,000 other developers in Silicon Valley, all to kind of come together, and they did meetups and they did events and everything else. So when we wanted to engage with them, the idea is, well, why wouldn't we just go with her and say, okay, we'd like to first sponsor. So sponsorship's a key piece of this. We'd love to have some speakers come to the events and either have those be Microsoft speakers or people that we affiliate with. We have a program called our MVP program, which are external influencers that are very aligned to our platform, understand it in depth. And so we'll place them in conferences to go speak as well. So first piece is really that people engagement, because communities are really just people. The next piece is that technology piece. You can't show up without credibility and authenticity. So if you don't have any depth in the technology, all the way down to the kind of the code level, you're not going to make any difference to them. And so one of the things we see often is there's a big difference, going back to the first question about evangelism, technical marketing versus evangelism. Technical marketing usually doesn't work trying to reach out to communities, because who wants to listen to a bunch of marketing people talk about speeds and feeds or features or anything else? What they want to understand is how to. How can I use this to leverage what I'm doing? How will this help me build a better product? Or how will this help me move into a new market? And so one of the things we talk about is everybody in our team, when we talk about being geeks that speak, we're also geeks that code. And so for us, everybody in the team has a super deep and passionate area of technology that they work on. And when they go talk, they immediately carry a ton of gravitas and authenticity when they speak. So first one is deal with the people. Second one is you got to carry a very deep technical bent with you. And the third one for us is it really is about being part of them, not trying to go out to them. So we look at this and go, we've spent the last 2.5 years kind of working with the Python community in San Francisco by just being part of them. We offer up our facility in San Francisco so that they can do their monthly meetings. We occasionally give talks. We sponsor other talks to come in. We feed them. We give them free beer at times. But it really is just becoming part of that community. So they don't look at us as Microsoft. In the case we have a person on the team named Tim, they look at, it's Tim, and he happens to be part of the community, and he's also a member of a Microsoft evangelism team. So for us, it's really those three things. It ends up being engaging with the people, that deep technical focus, and then the third one is really being part of the community rather than trying to reach out to the community.